All right, so let's talk about a couple of how best to say it by a couple of potential cult classics, right? So Ricardo, you will kick things
Right.
off with Hundreds of Beavers, and I will talk
Sure.
about Problemista. So as far as Hundreds of Beavers goes, sorry, I was hearing about this through the grapevine quite recently. YMS of Your Movie Sucks. He had this watch party, for people to come through to watch it. But I just know a
Right.
little piece of like what the premise is, but is the genre that really caught me by surprise. The slapstick
Right.
comedy genre, and that's something that you don't really see these days. It's something that you kind of associate with the '90s and the 2000s, and especially with stuff involving animals. So right off the gate, right off the bat, you're thinking shit like Mouse Hunt or Kangaroo Jack. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. No, like where you
Right.
think it's just that's detailed and it's for kids and you know what I mean? But even though this movie, I think it premiered at It premiered at Fantastic Fest in 2022, and I think like now it's being released digitally or theatrically. I'm not too sure, right? But yeah, the point is like you don't really see slapstick comedy centered on animals, these days, right? So yeah, just as a idea, this could either be a hit or a miss, right? But yeah, Ricardo, take it away. Hundreds
Right.
of Beavers. Well, if you don't mind me asking, how did you stumble upon this show here, and why did you want to see it?
Right. The first person who did, I think, I reviewed this pretty early on was Bob Chipman. He did
Okay,
a
okay.
review of it, and I was like, "Oh, I didn't know about this." But then I was when he mentioned another movie. That was what is by Lake Michigan Monster. That's what I was trying to remember. That's why I saw that a couple years back, and I didn't like it. I was like, yeah, it's one of these things that, it's very, it has that Guy Madden feel to things where, Guy Madden's a filmmaker I appreciate, but he's a little too niche for my liking. It feels like that. There's this weird animation mixed with the filmmaking stuff, and it's good. It's good stuff in its own conceit, but it too, I don't know what to call it, but film boorish, film fanish. It designed for that type of person. And
Oh, okay,
yeah,
okay.
I kind of get too old and into that kind of thing. So how to describe this thing? It's it's Tex Avery meets Inarritu, meet Alejandro Inarritu. If that make any sense,
Okay,
right?
okay.
So it's what it
I'm
is.
picking up on a little revenant vibes from it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And then off the top of my head, I'll say with a splash of Guy Madden, right? It's what it is. It's this story about a guy who have to. Oh, it done in this kind of vignette, shorts in the same vein as the Bugs Bunny stuff, or the old, and then it's just all this weird shitty things happening to him, and then a plot of him having to collect pelts. Uh, right. Well, aka Aladdin or Revenant, or at least Tom Hardy's character, but you have to get pelts because you have to deal with a situation as to why you have to collect pelts, and it's him a whole history with his being drunk and so and so, and um it's basically that, right? It's just this a bunch of vignettes, but it mixes animation with like with CG and everything just kind of collaged together with the thing. And listen, it's one of those things that if you're into film, if you love film and you're it's really hard, but it's a film student kind of thing. It designed for that type of person. Is what you call it the film festival crowd type of movie. It's perfect for that type of person. And you know what it remind me of? It remind me of it had a movie I remember watching a little over 10 years ago. That is an oversimplification of Her Beauty by Terrence Nance. Uh where it's just a bunch of ideas and you push everything together and it's all the filmmaking techniques. But as an actual final product, it's just a little too long, a little too like jumbled and kind of messy, and it only kind of comes together at the end. And yeah, that is basically how I felt about this. It's a little too long. It's like over 2 hours of material, and in my humble
Wait,
opinion, when they actually
really
reach,
over two? Is it over
it
two
is
hours or
it is
under?
it is over.
Oh,
It's a
really?
one. It's like a one. Is it not? No, it can't be over 2 hours. No, sorry.
I
It's
want to
hour one
know.
48 minutes.
Oh, okay.
That's all.
All right, I'll read it
Yes
up
or no?
here. I'm seeing it's hour and 48 minutes, but yeah,
Oh, 48 minutes.
seeing
Sorry
that
about
it
that.
is like sort of like one of those Looney Tune vignettes kind of styles sort of films.
Right.
Yeah, that's pretty
Well, I
long though.
see
That's
in
pretty long. So
so I see in it have a runtime of 108 minutes somewhere else. So I don't know if what I watched.
uh,
What I have is a 148 minutes. That's what I
well, yeah,
watched.
that's
Um,
108 minutes. That's 100. Yeah.
Okay, so that means they add on to they add on as extra content then. So it's probably some director's cut or something I watched. I felt it was something that could have chopped
Oh,
down.
well,
Um,
that's
but
a
yeah,
good sign.
it's
That even while you were watching
well,
it felt too long. So yeah.
well, that's the thing. Here's why it's good because it cuts together. It just like it just kind of stitches together a bunch of like different vignettes in the same vein as a Bugs Bunny cartoon. So like if I were to just watch them separately, I would love them because yes, when it's good, it's really good. It's legit funny shit. It's very silent. It does a lot of silent cinema stuff. It's all about sound effects, very little voices. Same vein as like a Tom and Jerry cartoon, or again, most like the closest comparison is probably like a Roadrunner cartoon. Um, or something like Duck Amuck, where remember those things where Daffy Duck was by himself and it was him versus the artist. Remember that shit?
Mm.
Right,
Yeah,
stuff like
I
that,
remember
right?
those. Yeah.
Right. It's like that, where it's just every little weird bullshit happening to him, but it's just really good, funny acting, bounces off with the golden age animation aesthetics, and then everybody in suits and just like beaver suits and like bunny suits and wolf suits, and it's just a bunch of separate stories, but it's all stitched together as one narrative, but it feels a little too long, and the only time it kind of comes together is in kind of the last act when you have to get the hundreds of beavers and what hundreds of beavers mean in the context of the story. And it's mostly good, right? I do think it, just watching it as one product, one single stretch, is a bit of a stretch. I think what happens is that I watch it in a bad time. It was kind of late, and I kind of wanted to go home, and it's just in the screen. I was like, okay, whatever. But at that point, I was like, I think it's just more being in a bad mood. I didn't have anything to drink, so I wasn't enjoying myself. It's just me watching the screener, just watching it in an analytic position. If I had some friends, well, especially filmy friends, I'd probably enjoy it a lot more. But as it is, it's brilliant. It has a lot of funny bits in it. It does the really subversive like Warner Brothers stuff, the typical Warner Brothers stuff. You'll have a character, the typical coyote stuff where you think the machine go and flip one way, but it'll break the laws of physics and flip the other way, or a character will be falling and then the shadow will move and bust your head, and all this the typical slapstick, wild comedy in that sense. And it mostly works. It's kind of brilliant actually. From a technical standpoint, it's weird Marvel. They get a bunch of people who comes together and they make it work. So the main guy who plays Gene Kayak, I think is the character. He's really good in this. Luis Rico, as in there, they have like a fur tracker. They have a girl from, I swear I know her face. Some girl I follow on Instagram. I kind of dong bad for Olivia Graves. She's really good in this. Um, and is just usual shit. It comes together really well. It's really surprisingly funny, but you have to take it in chunks, right? Once you take it in 10-minute chunks, it's kind of borderline masterpiece, level. But I made the mistake of just watching it in one sitting, and that was the problem. So once I kind of adjust for that, it's a zany premise that really works. It's just him having to apparently have a big like beavers having to build a massive dam, and you have to go and capture beavers to doing something involving Olivia Graves' character, and why is he collecting the beavers and why he collecting pelts effectively for that, and they solve that. And it have a lot of like funny repeating gags in it. Like it have like is something involving a spittoon, which is funny every time. Something involving a woodpecker that's funny every time. It's all these little recurring gags. It's the same thing. They make it work. It's really good stuff. I rate and I strongly recommend it. Actually, it's I don't know if it's a Canadian thing or if it's American, but it's basically fur trapping in there. It plays with a lot of that too in terms of like animal welfare and these kind of things. They do a lot of that, but just the sheer zaniness of the thing comes together really really well. And yeah, it's with other than the little problems I had with it, it's kind of borderline. It's kind of brilliant in its own right. Yeah, again, if you think of how to think about it, it's again texture re-meeting Iratu with a splash of Guy Madden. That's how I kind of think about it. I like this a lot more than Lake Michigan Monster, in my humble opinion. I like that a lot more than that movie. I don't know, that just didn't work for me, and it was again one of these weird like products like in the same vein of the OSS 17117 films, these kind of harken back to our old time, but it's doing its own thing in its own way. And yeah, I still rated quite high. So yeah, 8 out of 10, a very high 8 though. It's kind of brilliant in its own right. And I could see this being a kind of cult hit for a lot of people, but it didn't stick with me as well as it could have. That's I was saying, it didn't do it for me. But I enjoyed it a lot more than Lake Michigan Monster, which you might like as well. But that didn't really work for me personally. But it's still good. Rated, yeah, 8, a very high 8. I enjoyed it a lot. Recommended.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Nice. So I will talk about Problemista, right? This was a show that I was made aware of through, our good friend Tracy Hutchins. He actually stumbled upon the trailer somewhere and, just shared it with me, right? So, of course, I checked it out because it's from, the kind folks at 824. I was like, all right, this looks really interesting, right? So what it's about, right? Or say before we get into what it's about, right? So this is written, produced, directed, and starring Julio Torres, right? He is, or I think he still is, or if I'm not mistaken, or probably isn't anymore. He used to be a writer for SNL. Okay. And actually, okay, so I'll confess, I haven't seen Nimona as yet, right? But okay. I know you saw it and I know you really enjoyed it, right? So there's a character in it. I'm just reading it off of Wikipedia called Diego the Squire.
Oh, he was the main guy. Okay, he was the voice. Okay, it was him. Okay, no problem.
Yeah, right. So that's him, right? So this for me is like my official introduction to his work, right? And what it's about, right? So it centers on the character of Alejandro, right? So he and his mom, grew up in El Salvador, right? And his mom was an artist, and like his world, it's really, because remember, it's an 824 film.
This is with taking in it. What's her name?
Tilda Swinton.
Right. I know.
Yes.
Off the top of my head, I don't remember. Okay,
I want to know. Yeah. Because okay, I mean, no 824 release. I know you know about this. You did like.
I didn't see this. But I didn't see this. Okay, no
right.
It slipped my mind. I know. I'm trying to figure out what movie is this. Okay, no problem.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay, right? So yeah. So because it's the 824 film, right? Like growing up, his world was just so wondrous and so imaginative and creative and all that kind of stuff, right? But they also kind of set up early on that, there was some overprotectiveness going on between his mom and him, right? So it's to the point that, she kind of fears what would happen to him if she were to leave his side, right? So cut to some years later, Alejandro's a big man, right? And he's very much interested in making toys, right? So he's actually in New York right now, right? So he actually migrated there years ago, right? And he's basically his main goal is to get into Hasbro, right? So he wants to make toys for a living. And it's kind of funny, right? So a couple things. It's kind of funny that Tilda Swinton... before we get to Tilda Swinton, it's funny that this show has a voiceover narrator similar to Greta Gerwig's Barbie, right? And similar similar to how who did the voiceover? Helen Mirren in Barbie. Isabella Rossellini, who's the narrator here. Yeah, she has this sort of like deadpan approach to how she delivers the lines and how she's telling the story, right? So it's like, yeah, she knows it's weird, but it's kind of ridiculous and sardonic at the same time, and it actually adds a lot to the humor of it, right? But also, the kind of toys that Alejandro comes in mind, right? So if you remember from Barbie, there was that one segment involving the one Barbie who was going through like depression or whatnot. I forgot what the name of the Barbie was, right? It was made specifically for the show and it was a nice joke. But yeah, in this one, he just has all these like ideas for, it's this Barbie who does this, or this Cabbage Patch Kid who does that, right? And the idea is that you're teaching kids that, you have to expect uncertainty in life, right? So like perfect example, this is toy car, but like one of the wheels have is one of the wheels flattener, because you have to tell kids, hey, anything could happen, not everything is going to be perfect, right? So anyway, so he's trying to get through that, right? And he's just running into a lot of difficulties, mainly because trying to secure a work visa, right? Because again, he's still an immigrant, right? So through some circumstances, He runs into Elizabeth, who is played by Tilda Swinton, right? And just brief summary of what her premise is, right? So she's this she's this millionaire, right? And her husband just so happens to be we boy RZA, as in Wu-Tang RZA, right? Bobby, right?
Okay.
As soon I forgot that he was in the movie, but as soon as I saw the name Bobby, it's like, all right, yeah, RZA in it, right? Remember Bobby Digital, right? That's a nick, right? That's a persona of his, right? And his thing is that he's an artist, but he specifically paints eggs. But I think he has terminal cancer, so what he kind of organizes is like this cryogenics chamber, right? So he freezes it inside and he stays inside the chamber, and like again, it's an 8 to 4 shooter. So the idea is that he will wake up years into the future, right? that's his shtick, right? But in the meantime, Elizabeth is trying to acquire all of his, well, basically his 13 specific paintings that he made of eggs before he went into that chamber, right? Because she wants to have this this art show basically with promoting those things, right? Because she loves the guy and all that kind of stuff, right? So you're probably wondering what all this has to do with Alejandro, right? So one way or the other, reluctantly, Alejandro becomes Elizabeth's assistant, right? And he's just kind of helping out, through this drama. And she is just incredibly hard to work with. She quarrels a lot. She's always on edge and whatnot, and because it's Tilda, it works. It just adds a lot to the character. This is how wildly erratic it is, right? But the story really is about Alejandro and his journey to just making it to Hasbro, right? But what the show also does, I'll jump into the review here too, is kind of more or less visualize his neurotic side, right? Because he is a neurotic individual, right? There's a lot of things going on in his head, a lot of fears that he has and whatnot, and it just kind of boils down to, look, I just don't want to be kicked out of the States and I have to come back home with my hands empty, right? I have a dream and I want to go at it, right? But it's hard out there, right? Especially and this is one thing that I can relate to, right? This whole idea of the American dream. Once you go to the States, everything is going to be okay, right? But it's hard, and I like how the show visualizes that, right? So for one thing, as far as just visuals go, right? Julio really has an eye for just these unique, striking visuals, right? There's a bit involving him going on Craigslist, right? And he visualizes this as this guy, right? Well, this queer black guy who's like, Craigslist, do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? Do you want to sell this for this amount of money? And it's just how wild the visuals are, and well, trippy they are for one thing, right? And just how blatantly sardonic the humor is, right? That totally works, right? And you really buy into this guy just wanting to figure out a way through all of this insanity, but he just doesn't know how, right? And he thinks that he found the answer by helping out Elizabeth, but she's just all weird and crazy in her own right too. So it's just all this stuff going on, right? But then there's also subplot involving his mom, trying to help him out as best as she can, but she's in El Salvador and she can't really do anything about it, right? And the journey itself that he goes through is very weird and bizarre, but also quite entertaining and funny oftentimes as well, right? But yeah, as far as just directing wise, I thought that Julio did a great job though. Like just with the trippy visuals and all that kind of stuff. It's not just trippy for the sake of it. It actually adds a lot to the story and the character that he's playing, right? The character is, as far as acting goes, like I thought that he did a decent job here, but it's just one of those like subdued kind of roles. Like he's always kind of internalizing things. He doesn't speak that much, but he just kind of always in his head, right? It also kind of the show itself kind of reminds me of a show that we covered last year, a show that we were like, but it just kind of dropped the ball for a lot of reasons. Beau is Afraid,
right?
It has a sort of a Beau is Afraid kind of vibe to it, where he's just all like in his head and fearful of things, right? But at the same time, it's like the world around him is crazy as well. So he's have to deal with all this insanity as well, right? But fortunately, this film is a lot more optimistic. The character actually goes through actual growth and maturity in the film here. Like Beau is Afraid, where both just pretty much stay the same way through the whole damn show, which was a letdown for me, you know what I mean? But whatever. Yeah, the man goes through growth. Like, the man learns about himself and the world about him. He learns just how competitive America is, you know what I mean? Just the capitalist nature of it too, right? And yeah, just how self-centered people are, whether it's Elizabeth who wants to, you know, do right by her husband, or even like Bobby as well too, right? And this whole thing about, you know, I'm just gonna freeze myself and, you know, when things get better, yeah, I'll be back, right? Which is literally years into the future, right? But whatever. Writing is pretty solid as well too, right? Like the pace of it as well, the performances are solid as well too. But like you and Hundreds of Beavers, this show didn't click with me. It didn't stay with me as much as I wanted to, right? So, like, for me, while I do admire and appreciate, you know, just the imagination that Julio put to the table with the story here, it just didn't quite hit the landing for me, right? I think it's just because, if I'm not mistaken, I think this is like his debut feature film, right? And I am actually glad that that you know he actually well, actually, yes, this is his debut feature, right? And I'm glad that, you know, he hooked up with E24 and, you know, they were like, yes, we believe in your crazy vision, so yes, we will help you market and distribute your film and, you know, work on it and whatnot with you, right? And yeah, I mean, E24 and this film is perfect, like just a match made in heaven, right? Okay, yeah, it's that sort of artsy, slightly mainstream kind of film, right? But I feel like, you know, just maybe with a couple more films on his belt, he will be up there like with the Daniels, right? Who put out Everything Everywhere All at Once, right? Where the trippy visuals work in tandem with the story. They're not just there to just be all weird and avant-garde. They're there in the favor of the story itself. If that makes sense, in the favor of the film itself, right? So it feels sort of seamless instead of, oh, okay, you just being weird just for the sake of it, right? And I would admit there are points in the film where it was like, oh, you just kind of being weird just because you want to be weird, okay? But it kind of didn't gel well with the story and the team and whatnot, right? And you know, it's like that. But again, it's the man debut feature, so you know, I do hope that with his subsequent films, you know, like he kind of, you know, how to say, but like he gets his vision down properly, right? So not only is he just kind of entertaining you with the weird shit, but he's also telling you a really compelling story at the same time, and really giving you an experience, something that you'll never forget, right? And I hope that he does that here, right? So that's just basically me saying that as far as a debut feature, I was impressed by it. I admire what it is he did. But I know that if he keeps like fine-tuning his style and whatnot, yeah, you know, he could be up there with the Daniels and whatnot. And who knows, maybe the man could win an Oscar like those guys did, right? For Everything Everywhere, right? But yeah, overall, this was a decent film. But again, it just didn't stick with me as much as it did. Also, I should mention last thing before I get to read it, Tilda Swinton, not surprised, she stole the show, boy. As much of an asshole she is, yeah, she stole every single scene that she's in, right? And RZA, even though he's hardly in the film, it's kind of funny just him being in the show. Just him being in the show is funny to me, in my opinion. I mean, but you could debate about his acting range and whatnot, but I thought that he did a decent job. And Julio, you know, he plays that sheepish character very well, right? And I like that, you know, that he does undergo character growth, significant character growth throughout the film, right? But yeah, Tilda kind of come and steal the show from the man, right? So look at that, right? But yeah, other than that, I enjoyed it for what it was, though I was entertained by it, I was marveled by it at some point, but I just felt like the trippiness should have gelled a lot more effectively with the story that Julio is telling, right? So for me, rating wise, I'm gonna give this, I liked a decent 3.5 out of 5, man. It's still worth checking out, right? It's for the art house crowd for sure, right? They're gonna enjoy this, right? But I can imagine, like, you know, just normal casual viewers watching this and appreciating the story. Like I would say the message of it really, really, really works for me. Just the idea of not giving up, but kind of standing up for your dreams. You know what I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it's about, right? And there's some really, really solid like moments of visualization of what the character is going through and whatnot. Some really creative moments there, right? But again, I just felt like those moments should have gelled a lot more stronger with the story being told, right? But that's pretty much it for me. But yeah, Problemista is worth checking out. So if you saw the ad and if you saw the trailer and you were like intrigued by it, I would say check it out. If you haven't, I would recommend going in as blind as you can, and yeah, one way or the other you will enjoy it in some way, shape or format. So yeah, check it out, man. Check it out.
Okay, nice.